Okay, so today's video is actually going to be a little bit fun. I've been excited to do this for a little while. This is going to be answering your top SAT questions, and we are pulling them from Reddit. So if you like this style of video, make sure you let us know in the comments. And then if you have any SAT questions, we would love to hear those too. Check it out. Okay, the first one is really relevant for 2026 because it's on practice test 11, which is new. So, opinions on practice test 11. Although I studied during this time frame, I believe I did not study enough to have a big jump. Even though the question threw me off because I noticed some module 2 questions in module 1, it is still plausible to do. I'm curious if anybody else thought this one was a bit easier. And if you're just listening, what I'm seeing in the photos is they made a 1320 on their practice test 5, and then they made a 1540 on practice test 11, and the dates between them are about like 6 weeks. So one thing to note in general is I found practice test 11 personally kind of in the middle, to be honest, with the English and the math. I don't feel like it was easier or harder compared to the other ones, but I do remember that practice test 5, which was a while ago, that's some older material, and I will remember some of the math being really hard. What's also not noted in this post is that this is a gap between those two scores. So there could be some prep in between. So they actually could have improved their score. So hands down, if you can, before your next test, take practice test 11 because it's the newest at this time of recording, but they're normally not a huge, massive difference between the practice tests. Okay, this one is how to use your Blue Book scores to actually predict your SAT score. So this one said, might be a stupid question, but how do practice test scores relate to actual SAT scores? In this photo, if you're just listening, they have like 1390, 1230, 1300, 1320. So they're pretty consistent. It says, I've been getting scores like this and I got really happy with 1390. I did not gamble any questions. But I've also never I've never taken an actual SAT, and I'm taking the one in March. So I wanted to ask if the practice tests are somewhat on par with the level of questions they ask on the actual SAT or how they relate. That is a good question. We actually get this asked a lot. So the Blue Book practice tests are a little bit easier than the real SAT. And it's not a perfect science. And this is why with my really high scores, I use some AI software that is some harder SAT questions, and we'll link it down below. But comfortably, if I was like looking at this kid's score and they've been studying that much, it looks like honestly with a 1390, they've just been actually understanding. They can probably predict maybe at least a 1290 to 1300 if they have a good test day. So it's not completely off, but you typically want to subtract at least 50 to 90 points from your Blue Book score. So this is a Desmos question I get asked quite a bit. Can I use or can every SAT math question be solved with Desmos? If not, which ones have to be done manually and without Desmos tricks? So one, I actually have a Desmos course. I will link it below, but I also have some YouTube videos on Desmos. But outside of that, no. No, you need to actually be able to understand math, and you use Desmos as a tool to be able to answer the questions. If you don't have the foundations of Algebra 1 and Algebra 2 and some geometry, the SAT, the Desmos and on the SAT just can't help you out. I'm sorry. But you really have to make sure you understand what's going on. Now, if you have a decent math foundation and you apply Desmos, that's when I've seen scores fly easily by 100 to 150 plus points. So hopefully that helps, and be looking out for those resources, and hopefully we'll do some more Desmos videos. So number 4, then we got one more crazy question for the end. So number 4, what resources could I use to improve my score? I am planning to take an SAT with my school in April, and my target score is around 1400 or higher. I have taken 2 practice tests, one of which I got a 1300, 690 reading and writing, and 610 math, and a 1240 with 630 reading and writing and 610 math. So pretty close and consistent. While I understand that my problems are usually with difficult math problems, hard vocab, and long reading comprehension passages, I'm not sure which resources to use in order to effectively improve my score. Are there any tools that can really help improve like certain skills on the SAT? So overall, yes, you've kind of got a couple of options. One, you can take a more holistic approach and even do like a full course or work with a tutor to go over those different skills. I personally go over a couple of those skills in some of my courses, and I'll add more ideally as time goes on, and we'll link that below. Other really helpful strategies with the longer reading comprehension passages, and honestly, it's going to sound really dumb, is actually reading the question first. Most students do not do this, and they lose so much time because they get to the top of the question, they read down, and then they read the question, they completely forgot everything they have forgotten. So for a sake of speed and actually increasing your accuracy on the reading questions, try out that trick and let me know how it goes. We'll go ahead and pause. Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay, here's my last question, and this surprised me and my team because this one's a new one. Okay, so advice needed for June SAT. So basically, I am an 8th grader and will take the SAT this June, and I want to do good. That was my first time without any prep. I sold on the math section because my brain forgot to add and it wasn't too bad. Anyways, is it good for my age right now? Can I hit a 1600 by June? Would it possible for me to get into MIT next year? Thanks for reading my post. Woo Nelly. So in general, with your reading and writing, I would actually say wait about 2 years. For one, an 8th grader taking the SAT, although I know some 8th graders that have made a 1500 on their SAT. That's a little bit of a fluke. But if your score is sitting about 450, you probably need a couple more years of high school or college level English classes to be able to better comprehend the literature. On the other hand, with the math, you obviously have a killer math foundation, but you're in 8th grade. So consider slowing down, enjoying some of your high school years. You could take those hard classes and maybe go to MIT when you're 18 and 19, but take some time to try to enjoy your high school years as well. So that would be my advice for that. So in all, did you enjoy these type of questions? Do you have more for me to answer? And I also hope to do this for the ACT, which we do a lot of prep. So that being said, don't forget to hit subscribe and share this with your friends.